will you be able to balance the budget in 2013-14?
Well, as Minister Horner said today, you know, these are very difficult economic times. They're very different economic times than what we had when we put our 2012 budget together, and the feds are experiencing the same thing right now with a higher than expected projected deficit. As Doug said, he's going back to ministers now to say, look, we need to be disciplined and we need to be focused, and that's our goal. We're going to do everything we can within our control, and there's a lot within our control. Some things aren't within our control, but this is the 6-week period where we set that out, and he's going to be working pretty hard with ministers to make sure that we meet our objectives.
There was no, when Mr. Horner spoke today, there was no obvious guarantee that you felt you could still assure that the operating budget would balance in 13-14.
Well, the steps that we're taking, I think, go a long way to that. And you know, we have a few issues right now that ministers have already been very firm on with respect to teachers' negotiations and doctors' negotiations. You know, it's not a bottomless pit of money, and certainly not now. So we're going to have to do some tough stuff. We're going to have to make some tough decisions. I think we can still continue to provide the services that Albertans have told us are their priorities, which are education and health care. And of course, we'll continue to invest in infrastructure according to the fiscal framework that Doug's already started to talk about, because that's going to be important for the future so that kids have classrooms to go to, so that we can keep growing the economy.
There were guarantees of 3-year funding plans in your spring budget for 3 ministries: education, advanced ed, and unis. Are you going to have to rework that? Or are you just going to have to shrink the envelope, or are you still going to go with 3-year, some kind of guaranteed 3-year funding?
Well, it's really important for those agencies that there's certainty with respect to that, because everything we're doing right now is about giving some long-term certainty around those issues. We've been very clear with municipalities that we want to continue to support them according to the MSI formula that we've put in place. I know that Doug is going back to take a look at that, but I'm pretty confident we're going to be okay there.
You would be okay to continue with the kind of... He said that everything is on the table in a sense that it's eligible to be off the table. Do you see any areas that are sacrosanct that you simply won't touch no matter what the fiscal realities become? Is that healthcare? Is it part of healthcare? Is it some aspects of education?
Well, it's early days, but you know, we've had some really good meetings in the last couple of days, and I think that we know we can keep our commitments in those areas. It's going to be important for us to be able to make sure that we're continuing to provide services. So as we move ahead, as I said, early days, and literally, as he would have said today, he has just gone back out to ministers. So we'll have to see where the conversations go in the next couple of weeks.
When did the language has been shifting a bit, changing a bit, as it must in a situation like this, but when did you come to the realization that you're going to have to make this rather dramatic statement of what's going on today? Because that was dramatic.
Well, we've been tracking very carefully, and we've been watching what's been happening. It's been a sea change in terms of international energy economy, and we see governments around the world, our federal government and governments across the country facing the same issues. This differential is a big hit for us, and it was not expected. And because of that, we're having to watch very, very carefully. But I think for us, going into finance ministers' meetings last weekend, I was in Toronto on Friday, and then Doug was with the federal minister on the weekend, and other provincial ministers. I think that's when we really start to see that it's time, partly also because this is when the work gets done, that we talk about that.
There was an oddity a week or so ago when a party statement came out over your signature talking about 2014. And I was reading that as you're saying you might not be able to say in 2014-15 that you would balance the budget, and for that year the government has previously rejected a surplus of $5.2 billion. How do you feel about that far year, which was supposed to be the return to real prosperity and real big revenue? How do you feel about that year?
Well, I think that what we saw in the 2012 budget and what we're seeing on a go-forward basis is that those projections have all slightly changed. We're still very optimistic with respect to that. I think that we're still going to be in good shape, but at this point in time, things are quite volatile, which as Albertans we're used to. So we'll have to see where we fall out on that in this budget.